Many nations have their own internal best girl debates. There's debate over who the best American waifu is, to which the answer is obvious, it's Maria. There's debate over who the best German waifu is, to which the answer is obvious, it's Tanya. There's debate over who the best Japanese waifu is, to which the answer is obvious, it's what the fuck is that countdown doing there? Could you, move it? Could you shift it to the side? Don't worry, we can bring it back when it's relevant for a joke. Nice. However, what you don't often see is waifu debates devoted to the land known as England, if you're going to be pedantic about it. It's a common misconception that England is the full country. That is wrong, because it also consists of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland to make the United Kingdom of Great Britain. As we all know, England is a city. Whew, now that's a fucking dead meme. British people, like basically everything, only look good in anime because the majority of us are so unsightly we have to put on masks while making YouTube videos. But, good looking as they are, English waifus need to feel like English waifus. And so this unconventional episode of Best Girl Wars will determine who puts the T back into I'm never going to lose my virginity. Starting off with Karen Kujo from Kiniro Mosaic, this girl is literally wearing the Union Jack, so we might already be onto a winner. The next point of intrigue, the line vroom vroom, is a reference to our motor industry. From Rolls-Royce to Jaguar, Karen represents them all. You can tell I haven't actually watched this show. There's also her mispronunciation of Aya's name to Ayaya, which shows her Englishness because we are famous for mispronouncing foreign words, such as Ibiza, croissant, and perfectly fine walking weather. I can't say that she's the most English of all the waifus, as she appears to have lost her accent a wee bit. She says she lives in the Cotswolds, and her accent sounds like this.
Here, I will give you funny dough to protect you.
However, a real-life Cotswolds accent sounds like this.
Well, as each Republic call on these in the doctor flip, oh trip.
As you can see, there's a slight difference. If I'm going to account for waifus from England, then I have to account for waifus from technically England as well. One such waifu is Violet from Violet Evergarden. Technically, she lives in Leiden-Schaftlich, a country with a German-sounding name, and the city she lives in looks to be based off southern France. However, most of the people have British-sounding names, so I'm going to be including her as an English waifu, because I need to pad out the runtime. If Violet's name isn't enough proof that she's English, then some of her characteristics will show you otherwise. She starts off the series cold, emotionless, and unable to understand the concept of joy. Sounds about right. And when asked to choose a toy, she chooses the dog, or should I say, the good old British bulldog. Oh yes. But some of her actions throughout the show are very non-English indeed. In multiple episodes, she is shown delivering the post. Often she will travel wide distances to deliver these letters, and it will often take her weeks to deliver them. That's way too fast for a proper Royal Mail postie. Although, on the subject of sort of England, we have Olivia Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and she is quite the high society lady. She will backstab her peers just to get a seat. That's basically how Parliament works. She has a constant supply of gloves, and she will happily kill other people if it means getting some of that good inheritance wonga. But even she is not the most English waifu, because when her country, a stand-in for Victorian England, defeats the stand-in for the Russian Empire, no one writes a poem about it and forces every Emestrian schoolchild to learn it off by heart so they can compare it to the Emestrian equivalent of Exposure by Wilfred Owen. Added onto this, when her parents say that they're going to Xing, the stand-in for China, they say that they'll bring back a statue, not shitloads of opium. While the pet girl of Sakuraso features Rita Ainsworth, an English girl, I'm going to be focusing on Mashiro, as I believe her to be more English in spirit. I know that she's technically Japanese, but we call Giorno Italian, and he's half Japanese and half English, so I think we can let it slide for Mashiro. Mashiro has a tactic known as Plan C, which is a plan in which she will mount an all-out war against a person. All-out war is also the English Plan C when dealing with a threat, with Plan A being giving them the Sudetenland and Plan B being acting surprised when they take the rest of Czechoslovakia. If you want undeniable proof she's English, just watch this.
卵は割れる。
まだそれしかできてない。
包丁好き。
However, you know what's better than a knife? A sword. And you know what another word for sword is? Saber is a waifu I was only recently introduced to with my viewing of Fate Zero. She is in fact the real form of King Arthur, who historical evidence would point to him being either Welsh or Italian, but feck it. I'm calling her English for the sake of this video. Saber has followed the code of chivalry all her life. A tradition that has evolved into the British phenomenon of manners, a set of behaviours that requires such a borderline insane amount of devotion to understand that it's comparable to, well, the the Fate franchise. Saber is so aggressively polite that when her scabbard, one of the most powerful items she owns, is given to some woman she barely knows, she's perfectly fine with that. She wouldn't want to cause a hullabaloo. She's talented at driving any vehicle of her choosing, and this is part of the innate British desire to blast the MC of your choice from the speakers. In her battle with Lancelot, it's revealed that she contributed to his downfall. Now, it's technically something to do with one of them cucking the other, but bugger that, I've got a better explanation. The reason a rift grew between them was because King Arthur didn't prevent Lancelot from being arrested at the end of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And on the subject of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, it also features the character of Tim the Enchanter, who harnesses explosion magic. Sounds like a certain someone. What? Where do you think she got the eccentricity from? Yes, Konosuba is not an isekai, because Kazuma was just teleported to England. This is what the English countryside looks like. It's why we advise all the tourists to go to London, because they wouldn't take too kindly to being consumed by a giant frog. You might be thinking that if Megumin is now English, does that mean that Aqua is also English? And you'd be right. Someone who sees themselves as a god and then cries whenever people don't agree with her? Of course we've got one of those. We call it Lily Allen, but we all know who she really is. Now, Azure Lane is a show that did the rounds and not much else. Since it aired last year, I have heard nothing from it since, and I can't imagine that there was anything worth mentioning. By Jove! The Royal Navy makes an appearance in the anime, and out of the ships that feature, Belfast and Edinburgh are Irish and Scottish respectively, so I guess I'll be looking at Sheffield. We see her drinking shitloads of tea, playing golf, and dressing up in maid outfits. The maid outfit isn't really relevant to anything, I just appreciate that it's there. Apparently, she wears no panties, which, seeing as she's based off Sheffield, makes sense, because she reflects the northern habit of barely wearing anything during the winter. But if you want to see more of her, then we better hope that there aren't any waifus made out of the Argentinian military, because if so, whoo boy, F. RIP. R.I.P. R.E.O. Speedwagon. Speedwagon, otherwise known as Robert E.O. Speedwagon, otherwise known as Speedwagon, isn't just a service to this country. I'm slightly worried that this country isn't enough of a service to him. The man is both Victorian street urchin and Victorian gentleman, which gives you the best of both worlds. He has the street smarts of one side and the not dying of cholera of the other side. He also raised Joseph Joestar, who's basically every Englishman on holiday ever. Speedwagon is so English that he bleeds gravy, shits chips, and salivates tea. And to top it off, he also has a bowler hat that is made of knives. Boris, I know you're listening. Why bother with just changing the colour of our passports? When frankly, a bowler hat made of knives is an image so English that it can replace the royal coat of arms on our passports. And if you're not going to use that, then at least use an image that is similarly English. This one will suffice.